They say the quietest people have the loudest minds. For 30 years my life was a testament to that. To my daughter, Chloe, and to the handful of souls in our small town of Oakhaven, I was Eleanor Vance, the town librarian, a woman who measured her days in the satisfying thud of a date stamp and the hushed whispers of turning pages. A widow who lived a simple, predictable, and some might say small life. But in the silent, ink-black hours of the night, long after the last book had been shelved and the library doors were locked, I became someone else entirely. In a world of glass and steel, of transatlantic phone calls and high-stakes negotiations, I was Evie Sterling, the phantom founder and CEO of Sterling Press, one of the most respected and powerful publishing houses in the country. My days were spent helping schoolchildren find their first chapter books, but my nights were spent shaping the literary landscape of a generation, making and breaking careers with the stroke of a pen. I lived this double life for one reason, and one reason only: my daughter. I wanted Chloe to grow up in the sunlight, untainted by the long cold shadow that wealth can cast. I wanted her to find her worth in her own character, not in a trust fund. And for 24 years I thought I had succeeded. She was everything I could have ever hoped for. Kind, brilliant, and compassionate to her core. But then she brought home a man who threatened to burn down the quiet world I had so carefully constructed. His name was Liam, and in his eyes I was nothing more than a lonely small-town librarian, a relic from a bygone era. He mocked my life, my home, my very existence, all while being completely unaware that the woman he was so eager to dismiss held the keys to the kingdom he was desperate to enter. He was about to learn a lesson that isn't taught in business school: that true power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it waits patiently on a dusty shelf, disguised as a simple story. And his final chapter was going to be one he never ever saw coming. Let me take you back to the beginning of The Secret. It wasn't born from a desire for intrigue, but from a promise made in the sterile quiet of a hospital room. My husband, Chloe's father, Daniel, was a man who felt everything too deeply. He was a poet, a dreamer, a man who saw sonnets in sunsets and symphonies in the rain. He was also the sole heir to the Sterling family fortune, an immense weight of old money that he considered a curse. He saw it as a gilded cage, a corrupting force that replaced genuine human connection with a series of hollow transactions. He'd seen it poison his own family, turning them into people who knew the price of everything and the value of nothing. When a sudden illness took him from us far too young, his last words to me were not of love, though I knew he loved me, but of fear. "Eleanor," he whispered, his hand frail in mine, "don't let the gold blind our girl. Promise me. Let her find her own treasure. Protect her from this." And so I promised. After he was gone, I took our infant daughter and vanished from that world of suffocating wealth. I moved us to Oakhaven, a town nestled in a valley, so peaceful it felt like a well-kept secret from the frantic pace of the modern world. I took the job at the Oakhaven Public Library, a beautiful old stone building that had always been my personal sanctuary. It was the perfect camouflage. Who would ever suspect that the woman in the cardigan, patiently explaining the Dewey Decimal System, was simultaneously liquidating stock portfolios and orchestrating corporate acquisitions? In those early years, with a sleeping Chloe in a bassinet behind the circulation desk, I used a portion of Daniel's inheritance to quietly found Sterling Press. It began as a tribute to him, a way to champion the kinds of daring, unconventional literary voices he had always admired, the kinds of voices the larger, more commercial houses were too timid to touch. I operated under the pseudonym E.V. Sterling, a phantom in the machine, the for Eleanor, the V for Vance, and Sterling for the family name he had so desperately wanted to redefine. The anonymity was paramount. It ensured the work, the stories were the only things that mattered. To my profound astonishment, Sterling Press didn't just succeed, it flourished. We became a cultural phenomenon, a beacon for literary talent. We launched the careers of Pulitzer Prize winners and published novels that sparked national conversations. The empire grew beyond my wildest dreams, but my life in Oakhaven remained a constant. I drove a 10-year-old station wagon, lived in a modest 2-bedroom cottage with a sprawling, unruly garden, and my greatest personal indulgence was hunting down first edition copies of classic novels at flea markets. Chloe grew up believing we were comfortable but never wealthy. She learned to budget her allowance, worked a summer job scooping ice cream at the local parlor, and learned that the greatest gift you could give someone was your time and a thoughtfully chosen book. She saw the genuine joy I found in my library job, and just as her father would have wanted, she developed a deep, abiding love for knowledge and stories, the very treasures he had spoken of. When Chloe left for college in the city, it felt like a part of my own heart was walking out the door. She was stepping into the world I had fled, a world driven by ambition, status, and money. But she navigated it with the grace and integrity I had worked so hard to instill in her. She was brilliant, she was kind, and she made friends who valued her for who she was. And then, in her final year, she met Liam. The first time she brought him home to Oakhaven for a weekend, I was a bundle of nerves and excitement. Chloe's voice on the phone had been a melody of pure happiness. "Mom, you're going to love him. He's so charming, incredibly driven, and he's going to do amazing things." He was a top student in his business program, with his sights set on the cutthroat world of corporate acquisitions. The moment he stepped out of his sleek metallic gray sports car, a vehicle that looked alien parked on our gravel driveway, I understood the charm. He was tall and handsome, dressed in a casual cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. He had a smile that seemed professionally calibrated for maximum effect. "It's a true pleasure to finally meet you, Mrs. Vance," he said, his handshake firm and brief. His eyes, however, were not on me. They were sweeping across my small, cozy living room, cataloging the worn floral armchair, the overflowing bookshelves, the faint scent of lemon polish. It wasn't the gaze of a guest. It was the cold, quick appraisal of an auctioneer. "Please call me Eleanor," I said, my own smile genuine as I led them toward the kitchen. The comforting aroma of the apple pie I'd baked from scratch filled the air. The first dissonant note was struck almost immediately. "Oh, you bake?" he asked, a subtle arch to his eyebrow. "How quaint." The word hung in the air, a tiny polished dart. "It's one of the perks of small-town life," I replied, my tone light, refusing to let him see it had landed. "We have to make our own entertainment." Over dinner, the polite facade began to crumble. He held court at my simple wooden table, recounting tales of his high-powered internship, name-dropping executives, and outlining his 5-year plan for financial domination. He spoke of people not as individuals with hopes and dreams, but as contacts, assets, or liabilities on the grand chessboard of his career. He then turned that appraising gaze on me. "So, Eleanor, Chloe tells me you run the library here. That must be a very relaxing way to spend your days." "It's deeply fulfilling," I countered gently. "I believe that providing a community with free access to the world's knowledge and stories is a profound responsibility." He let out a short, sharp chuckle as if I'd told a clever joke. "Right. Stories. Look, I get it. I'm more of a bottom-line guy myself. ROI, market share, shareholder value. That's the language of the real world. That's the language of power." He then reached across the table and patted Chloe's hand, his smile patronizing. "It's adorable that you got your love of books from your mom, babe. But let's be honest, you can't pay off a mortgage with a library card." I saw Chloe flinch, a barely perceptible tightening around her eyes. "Liam, my mom loves her job. She's incredible at it. The library is the heart of this town because of her." "Oh, I'm sure she is," he said, turning his smile on me, a smile that didn't reach his cold, calculating eyes. "Every town needs a heart. But the city where the real decisions are made. The city needs a brain." That weekend was the blueprint for all his future visits. Oakhaven became the stage for his casual psychological warfare. He'd make subtle jokes about my vintage station wagon, suggesting I could get a great deal on a lease if I had a proper credit score. He once offered to buy me a new massive flat-screen television for Christmas, announcing in front of Chloe, "No one should have to watch movies on something that small. It's just sad." He'd spend hours on his laptop, tracking his stock portfolio, before turning to me with a sigh. "Eleanor, You really should let me take a look at your finances. I could work wonders with even a modest pension. It's never too late to start thinking seriously about your future." Through it all, I would just smile my gentle librarian smile, a storm of glacial rage brewing deep within me. The most painful part was watching Chloe. I saw her discomfort, the way she would try to deflect or change the subject. But she was blinded by love, reinterpreting his breathtaking arrogance as ambition, his cruelty as a lack of social grace. "He just operates at a different speed, Mom," she would tell me in private. "He doesn't mean to be condescending. He just thinks big." But I knew better. He wasn't thinking big. He was making me small. He was deliberately constructing a narrative in which he was the hero, the provider, the man of the world, and I was the helpless, simple-minded provincial he and Chloe would have to one day take care of. The irony, of course, was a thing of exquisite, torturous beauty. The absolute pinnacle of his ambition, the holy grail of his career path, was to land a job at Sterling Press. He spoke of my company with a breathless, almost religious reverence. "They're not just a publisher, Chloe," he'd explain, his eyes gleaming with a rapacious fire. "They're a cultural institution. And the founder, this E.V. Sterling character, is an absolute legend. A complete enigma. No one even knows if they're a man or a woman. They've built this empire from the shadows. That kind of mystique, that's real power. They only hire the absolute best of the best. Getting a job there isn't just a career move. It's a coronation." It was the most surreal experience of my life, sitting on my worn floral armchair, sipping chamomile tea, while this arrogant young man passionately lectured me on the brilliance of my own business strategies. "Their model for acquiring and marketing debut authors is revolutionary," he once declared, gesturing with his $1,000 watch. "It's a masterclass in risk management and brand cultivation. You probably wouldn't understand the complex financial instruments involved, Eleanor, but trust me, it's pure genius." I just took a slow sip of my tea. "It sounds absolutely fascinating, Liam." He spent the better part of a year angling for an opening in their highly competitive acquisitions department. He networked, he schmoozed, he polished his resume until it was blinding. He read every book we had ever published, memorizing sales figures and critical reviews, my figures, my reviews. The day he received the email inviting him for a final round of interviews at the New York headquarters was a day of pure ecstasy for Chloe. She called me, her voice practically vibrating with joy. "He did it, Mom. He's in the final 3. They want him to come in for a full-day interview panel next Friday. This is it." "That's wonderful news, sweetie," I said, my heart beginning to pound a slow, heavy rhythm in my chest. A plan, cold and sharp and terrible, began to crystallize in my mind. "And Mom," she continued, her voice breathless with excitement, "the final interview is with the entire board of directors and a top senior executive. It's the ultimate test. We're going to go out for a huge celebration dinner that night at the Pinnacle, that fancy restaurant on the 80th floor. And I want you to be there. Please. It would mean everything to have you there to celebrate with us." The universe, it seemed, was serving me an opportunity on a silver platter. It was a cruel plan, perhaps. A risky plan, certainly. But Liam, with his relentless condescension, had forced my hand. This wasn't just about my pride anymore. This was about my daughter's future. She needed to see the man she was planning to build a life with, not the polished facade he presented, but the true character that lay beneath. "Of course I'll be there," I said, my voice as calm and steady as a summer lake. "As it happens, I have a rare book librarians conference in the city that very day. The timing is perfect." The week leading up to the interview was a masterclass in emotional suppression. Chloe was living in a future made of sunshine and champagne, calling me daily with updates. Liam had bought a new suit, a power suit, she'd called it. He was rehearsing his presentation on market expansion strategies for Sterling Press. My strategies. With every excited word from my daughter, the diamond of my resolve grew harder, colder. "He's already looking at apartments for us in the city, Mom," she confided one evening. "He said once he's a VP at Sterling, he'll be able to finally take care of us. He even talked about setting up a proper retirement fund for you, so you won't have to worry about a thing when you stop working at the library." The audacity of it was a physical blow. The rage it produced was so pure, so cold, it was almost clarifying. I was not just doing the right thing. I was performing a necessary act of surgery on my daughter's life, cutting out a cancer before it could metastasize. On the morning of the interview, I rose in the pre-dawn darkness. The drive to the city was a familiar ritual, but today it felt different. I didn't take my old station wagon. I drove to a discreet parking garage in a neighboring town where my other life waited. David, my fiercely loyal and impeccably dressed personal assistant, was standing by a sleek black town car. David was one of only 3 people on the planet who knew that Eleanor Vance and Evie Sterling were one and the same. For 20 years he had been my gatekeeper, my strategist, and the unwavering guardian of my secret. "Good morning, Miss Sterling," he said, his voice a calm baritone as he held the door. The transition was immediate, a shedding of skin. My posture straightened, my focus sharpened. The gentle, slightly stooped librarian receded, and the CEO, the architect of an empire, took her place. "Good morning, David," I replied, sliding onto the cool leather. "Report. Everything is in place," he said as we pulled smoothly onto the highway. "The board has been briefed on the unconventional nature of today's final interview. They are under strict instructions to follow your lead. Mr. Hayes's panel is scheduled for 2 p.m. in the main boardroom. He is currently under the impression his final meeting will be with the executive VP. And Chloe." My voice softened, the mother momentarily breaking through the CEO. "Her reservation at the Pinnacle is confirmed for 7 p.m. A car has been arranged. She believes you will be meeting them there directly from your conference." I nodded, watching the dense green of the countryside give way to the hard vertical lines of the city. The Sterling Press headquarters occupied the top 10 floors of a skyscraper of black glass and steel that pierced the clouds. It was my other home, a world of quiet power, a universe away from the scent of old paper and wood smoke in Oakhaven. I spent the morning in my office, a sprawling minimalist space with a single massive oak desk and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a godlike view of the city below. This was my throne room. I took calls, approved budgets, and finalized a multi-million-dollar deal to acquire a smaller rival press. It was a familiar rhythm, but today every action felt like a prelude, a tightening of a string on a cello before the first dramatic note. At 1:45 p.m., David's voice came through the intercom, calm and precise. "Miss Sterling, Mr. Hayes has arrived. He is in the 75th floor reception area." "Thank you, David," I said, my own voice betraying nothing of the tempest inside me. I stood, smoothed the lapels of my severe, dark gray suit, and walked toward the main boardroom. Send him in at 2 o'clock. Not a minute before. I took my seat at the head of the colossal mahogany boardroom table. My board members, 5 men and 2 women who were titans of industry and finance, were already assembled. They were the only people in the world who could put a face to the name Evie Sterling, and they regarded me now with a mixture of unwavering loyalty and intense curiosity. At precisely 2 p.m., the heavy oak doors at the far end of the room swung silently open. Liam walked in. He was the very picture of manufactured confidence. The power suit was immaculate. The tie was knotted with surgical precision. The leather portfolio was tucked authoritatively under his arm. He strode into the room, his eyes sweeping across the formidable assembly, a practiced, confident smile already forming on his lips. "Good afternoon," he began, his voice resonating with rehearsed strength. "My name is Liam Hayes, and I want to express my profound gratitude for this incredible opportunity to discuss how my vision for the future aligns with the esteemed legacy of Sterling Press." His voice caught, then died in his throat. His gaze, having completed its circuit of the table, had finally landed on me. The silence that followed was absolute, a void in which you could hear the frantic pounding of a single heart. I watched with a detached, clinical precision, the war that waged across his features. First, there was a flicker of profound confusion, a cognitive dissonance so extreme his brain seemed to stall. The librarian? Eleanor? Here. It's impossible. A mistake. She must be serving coffee. Then that confusion curdled into a dawning, sickening horror as his eyes properly registered the details: my position at the head of the table, the severe, exquisitely tailored suit I wore, the silent, deferential posture of the powerful people flanking me. The confident smile didn't just fade. It collapsed, melting away to reveal a slack-jawed expression of pure, uncomprehending shock. The expensive portfolio slipped from his suddenly nerveless fingers, landing on the plush, silent carpet with a soft, pathetic thud. I let the silence stretch, drawing it out like a thread of spun glass until it was almost at its breaking point. I wanted him to drown in it. I wanted him to stand there and feel the full, crushing weight of his monumental misjudgment. I wanted every single one of his condescending words, every patronizing smile, every cruel little joke to rise up from his memory and choke him. Finally, I leaned forward, my hands clasped on the gleaming table. My voice, when it came, was not loud, but it cut through the silence like a shard of ice. "You were saying, Mr. Hayes?" I asked. "Please do continue. We are all fascinated to hear your insights into the language of power and the real world." He opened his mouth, a faint gasp escaping. No words followed. He just stared, his eyes wide with a terror that was primal. The arrogant, self-assured man who had walked through that door was gone, utterly annihilated. In his place stood a small, pale, frightened boy who had just seen a ghost. I don't," he stammered, his gaze darting wildly around the room, searching for an exit, for an explanation, for any anchor in his capsized reality. "Eleanor? What in God's name are you doing here?" Mr. Abernathy, my oldest board member, a man with a face carved from granite, cleared his throat. The sound was like a rock slide. "You will address the CEO as Miss Sterling," he rumbled, his tone leaving no possibility for negotiation. Liam physically recoiled, as if the words had struck him. "CO," he whispered, the word a fragile, broken thing. His eyes snapped back to mine, the single word containing an entire universe of cataclysmic realization. "Yes, Liam," I said, letting his first name land with the deliberate, intimate cruelty of a stiletto. "CEO, and founder, and majority shareholder, Evie Sterling. It's a pleasure to finally meet you formally." I allowed myself a small, cold smile. "It seems you can pay a mortgage with a library card after all. You just need to own the library." The blood drained completely from his face. I watched him connect the dots, the terrible, beautiful algebra of it all unfolding behind his panicked eyes. The anonymous founder, the reclusive genius, Evie Sterling, Eleanor Vance. "Now," I continued, my voice hardening into steel, "you came here today to convince this board that you possess the vision, the character, and the impeccable judgment required to join the senior ranks of Sterling Press. Your resume, I admit, is impressive. Your academic achievements are notable. But we have a rather unique hiring policy here for executive positions, one that isn't mentioned in the job description. We believe a person's true character isn't revealed when they're speaking to a boardroom. It's revealed in how they treat the person they believe is beneath them. The janitor, the waitress, the small-town librarian." I stood up and began to walk slowly around the table, my heels making no sound on the thick carpet. "So tell us, Liam, tell this board, based on that single most important criterion, why in the world should we hire you?" He was shaking now, a fine tremor running through his entire body. He looked utterly, hopelessly broken. The carefully constructed edifice of his life, built on arrogance and ambition, had been reduced to rubble in less than 5 minutes. "You were obsessed with the mystique of Evie Sterling," I said, my voice low as I stopped directly in front of him. "You admired the power of anonymity. But you are a man of shallow intellect, Liam, so you never once considered the why. You assumed it was a strategic power play. It never occurred to your linear, transactional mind that it might be a shield, a way to live an authentic life, a way to raise a daughter to value integrity over income, and substance over status." He finally found his voice, a ragged, desperate plea. "Chloe, does she know?" "No," I said, the word a final, brutal blow. "She doesn't. She, like you, only knows Eleanor Vance, the woman whose life you called sad, The woman you so generously offered to financially support. The woman you told my daughter was a disappointment who never amounted to anything. Tears of pure, unadulterated panic began to stream down his face. I didn't mean it, he choked out. I swear. I was trying to impress her. To look successful. Do not lie to me in this room, I snapped, my voice cracking like a whip. You weren't trying to impress me. You had already assessed my worth and found it to be 0. You were attempting to diminish me in my daughter's eyes to elevate yourself. You judged my entire existence based on my home, my car, and my profession. You saw a quiet life and you assumed it was an unlived one. You saw kindness and you mistook it for weakness. That, Liam, is not a simple social misstep. It is a fatal flaw of character. A bankruptcy of the soul. I turned my back on him and addressed my board. The acquisitions department of this company requires a leader with shrewd judgment. It requires the deep, intuitive ability to see the hidden, priceless value in a manuscript, an author, a story that others have overlooked. It requires humility, insight, and the wisdom to know that the most valuable things are rarely the shiniest. I turned back to the trembling, weeping man before me. You, Mr. Hayes, have proven today, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that you possess none of those qualities. Your application is denied. This interview is over. He just stood there, a hollowed-out shell of a man swaying on his feet. David, I spoke into the room's silent intercom system. Please come and escort Mr. Hayes out of the building. As David entered, his face a perfect mask of professional indifference, Liam looked at me one last time, his face a crumpled mess of desperation. Please, Eleanor, Miss Sterling, I beg of you, don't tell Chloe what happened. Please just let me tell her I didn't get the job. I looked at him, at this pathetic, shattered man, and I felt nothing but a cold, clear emptiness. What I choose to discuss with my daughter is no longer any of your concern, I said, my voice devoid of any emotion. You have a dinner reservation with her at the Pinnacle at 7 o'clock. You are celebrating. I suggest you don't be late. She is so very much looking forward to hearing all about your triumphant day. The hours between the interview and the dinner were the longest of my life. I retreated to my office, the adrenaline of the confrontation draining away, leaving a hollow, aching sadness in its wake. There was no victory here. Not really. Because no matter how necessary, how justified my actions had been, my daughter was standing directly in the path of the shrapnel. At 6:45 p.m., the town car delivered me to the base of the skyscraper that housed the Pinnacle. Ascending in the glass elevator, watching the city lights spread out like a carpet of fallen stars, I felt a profound sense of detachment. I was an actress about to step onto a stage for the final tragic act. I saw them as soon as I entered. They were at the best table in the house, a corner spot encased in glass, making it feel as though they were floating in the night sky. Chloe was a vision in a sapphire blue dress, her face glowing with love and anticipation. Liam beside her was a study in gray. His expensive suit now looked like a costume for a man playing a role he no longer knew the lines to. His face was pale, his eyes were haunted, and he was gripping a glass of whiskey so tightly his knuckles were white. Mom! Chloe's face lit up as I approached, a beacon of pure, innocent joy. She jumped up and wrapped me in a fierce hug. You made it! Isn't this place just breathtaking? Liam, look, Mom's here. Liam rose from his chair like an old man, his movements stiff and mechanical. He couldn't meet my gaze. Eleanor, he mumbled, his voice a ghost. So, I said, taking my seat and directing a brilliant, warm smile exclusively at my daughter. The suspense is killing me. Tell me everything. How did the big day go? I'm sure you were spectacular. Chloe, oblivious to the toxic cloud of tension, answered for him, her words a cascade of pride. He said it was the most intense interview of his life. The final round was with the entire board of directors, Mom. Can you even imagine? He's being so modest and quiet about it, but I just know he completely nailed it. She turned to Liam, her smile finally faltering as she truly registered his grim, shattered expression. Honey, are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost. Liam just stared into the amber depths of his glass. It was an unforgettable experience, he managed to say, his voice strained. Well, there's no need to wait for the official offer letter to celebrate, Chloe declared, lifting her flute of champagne. A toast to my brilliant fiancé, Liam, and to his incredible new future at Sterling Press. I raised my own glass. To Sterling Press, I said, my eyes locking with Liam's over the rim. I saw him flinch, a spasm of pure panic crossing his face before he quickly looked away. The waiter came and went. Chloe chattered excitedly about the menu, about their future, about the city. But the silence from Liam was a screaming void. The tension was a third person at the table, a cold, invisible guest. I let it build. I let him stew in the acid of his own deceit. I wanted him to feel every agonizing second of this lie he was telling my daughter with his silence. Finally, after the appetizers had been served and cleared, I set down my fork. It was time. You know, I began casually, dabbing my lips with my linen napkin. I had the most extraordinary day myself. Chloe's attention, full of genuine interest, turned to me. Oh, how was the Rare Book Conference, Mom? I'm afraid I told you a small white lie about that, my love, I said, my voice soft, but carrying an unmistakable weight. I wasn't at a conference. I was at work. At my office. Chloe's brow furrowed in confusion. Your office? You mean the library? No, I said, my gaze shifting deliberately to Liam, who looked as though he was about to vomit. My other office. The one on the 78th floor. At the Sterling Press headquarters. Chloe let out a little laugh. A sound of pure, unadulterated confusion. Mom, what on earth are you talking about? What would you be doing at Sterling Press? My heart broke for the pain I knew was coming. I reached across the table and took her hand. Chloe, darling, there's something I should have told you a very long time ago. Your father, he wanted you to have a life free from the pressures of money. The small inheritance he left us, it wasn't small. It was the seed from which I grew a company, a publishing house. I run it under a pen name, a name I created to honor you and your father, E.V. Sterling. Chloe just stared at me, her mind visibly struggling to process the impossible words. The smile was gone, replaced by a mask of stunned disbelief. She looked from my face to Liam's ashen, guilty one and back again. The pieces, sharp and jagged, began to slam into place. You are E.V. Sterling, she whispered, her voice trembling with the shockwave of the revelation. You own all of it? I simply nodded, my eyes never leaving hers. I do. Her gaze, now filled with a whirlwind of shock, betrayal, and a rapidly dawning horror, snapped to Liam. The interview. She breathed, the words barely audible. Your final interview today, with the entire board. The suffocating silence from Liam was all the confirmation she needed. Chloe slowly turned her body to face him, her expression transforming from shock to a cold, focused fury I had never seen in her before. You knew, she said, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous whisper. You are sitting here right now, letting me toast to a job you knew you didn't get. You have been sitting here for an hour, knowing that my mother is the CEO of that company, and you did not say a single word. Liam finally looked up, his face a mask of pathetic pleading. Chloe, baby, please. Let me explain. It's not what you think. Isn't it? She shot back, her voice rising in volume and intensity. Explain what, Liam? Explain how for the past 2 years you have systematically mocked my mother? How you have condescended to her, pitied her, made joke after joke about her simple, quaint life. Were you laughing inside the whole time, knowing she could buy your entire family's legacy with her pocket change? No, of course not. I was. He stammered, reaching for her hand. She snatched it away as if his touch were venomous. Don't you dare touch me. I saw it all. I heard every word. And I defended you. I made excuses for you. I told myself you were just different, that you didn't understand our life. But you didn't just misunderstand, Liam. You judged. You looked at the kindest, most brilliant woman I have ever known, And you decided she was worthless because she wasn't obsessed with the same shallow, empty things you are. Tears were streaming down Chloe's face now, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pure, molten rage and profound humiliation. All that talk, all that worshipful talk about Sterling Press, about its genius and its power. You were talking about my mother. You were praising her life's work to her very face while simultaneously treating her like she was a fool. She pushed her chair back, the sound scraping harshly in the suddenly silent restaurant. She stood over him, a righteous fury radiating from her. The woman you dismissed? The woman whose finances you wanted to manage? The woman you thought had amounted to nothing? She built that empire. With her mind, with her integrity, with her soul. She is everything you have ever pretended you wanted to be. And you are nothing but a cheap, hollow imitation. With that, she turned, her head held high, and walked out of the restaurant without a single look back. I stood and placed my black, impossibly exclusive Sterling Press corporate card on the table next to Liam's trembling hand. The meal is on the company, I said, my voice soft but clear. Consider it a severance package. I found my daughter outside, shivering in the cool night air, staring at the endless river of headlights below. Her righteous anger had collapsed into heartbreaking sobs. I said nothing. I simply went to her and wrapped my coat and my arms around her, holding her as she wept. "I'm so sorry, Mom," she cried into my shoulder, her voice muffled and thick with pain. "I'm so sorry I didn't see him. I'm so sorry I let him treat you that way for so long." "Shua, my darling girl," I whispered, stroking her hair. "It is not your fault. You have a good and trusting heart. You look for the best in people. That is a precious gift. Don't you ever let a man like him take that away from you." "But I feel so stupid," she whispered. "And I feel like I don't even know you." I pulled back, holding her face in my hands and wiping her tears with my thumbs. "You have always known my heart, Chloe. That is the only part that has ever truly mattered. The rest is just a job. A very complicated secret job. I kept it from you to protect you, to honor your father's wish. Perhaps I was wrong to do so for so long. But I swear to you, every single choice was made out of a love for you so deep it hurts." We stood there for a long time, mother and daughter, suspended in the glittering, indifferent night. The lie that had defined our lives shattered around us. But in its place, I could feel the foundation of a new, stronger, more honest truth beginning to form. Liam, as you might have guessed, vanished from our lives like a ghost at sunrise. The shame was a burden too heavy for his fragile ego to bear. I sometimes wonder if he learned his lesson, if he ever looks at a quiet person in a simple job and feels a flicker of doubt, a moment of consideration. I can only hope so. It took time for Chloe and me to rebuild. There were many long nights filled with difficult questions, tears, and painful truths. She was hurt by the years of deception, and rightfully so. But as I walked her through my life, through her father's wishes and my own fears, she began to understand. She began to see the secret not as a wall I had built between us, but as a shield I had held over her. She spends time in the city now at Sterling Press. Not as an heiress apparent, but as an editorial assistant, starting at the very bottom. She is learning the business I built. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. She is earning her own way, forging her own path, with the same humility and integrity that I always knew was in her. She is, in every way, her father's daughter. As for me, I still live in Oakhaven. I still volunteer at the library. This town, this simple, quiet life, it is my anchor. It reminds me of what is real, of what truly matters. The two halves of my life, once so carefully segregated, have finally begun to merge into a single authentic whole. The world is full of people who will judge you on the surface. They will measure your worth by your zip code, your job title, or the car you drive. They are so busy trying to climb their own ladders that they forget to look around, to see the quiet strength, the hidden brilliance, the silent, powerful empires that exist in the most unexpected of people. So I leave you with this thought. The next time you encounter someone you are tempted to dismiss as simple, quaint, or unimportant, I urge you to pause. Look closer. Listen harder. Because you never truly know who you are talking to. You might just be speaking to a queen in a librarian's cardigan. And you might be one condescending word away from an interview you will never ever forget. Do not forget to subscribe for more videos. Also share, comment and subscribe.